Welcome into TNT Twincast. We appreciate you guys checking out one of our videos. Do us a solid, like, subscribe, and hit us with a comment down below. It's the best way for us to grow our channel. We appreciate you guys so much, and go Noles. Welcome to TNT Twincast. This is the Garnet and Goal Line podcast. I'm Tory. That's Thomas. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing awesome. How are you?
I am very, very good. Very good. So we're going to talk a little bit of Florida State USM today. We're also going to get into a little bit of Week 2 recap. We've picked two games that we want to highlight. But first, let's get into Florida State USM. Florida State wins 66 to 13 against USM. I think Florida State really did what they needed to do here from a score point of view. They really took control of the game as soon as they could and really rode it to victory. There's a lot of things that we're going to get into, some things that we didn't really like about the game. And I've comprised a few stats here that I think really highlight some things that Florida State did really well and some things that I think Florida State needs to work on going into BC and that all-important Week 4 game in Death Valley. But Thomas, what were some things about the USM game? What are your kind of data points? And yeah, what's up?
When we talked about this game, we had I kind of brought up how I wanted us to run the ball, and we ended the game with over 300 yards of rushing and 37 attempts. So we were really able to kind of establish the line of scrimmage.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, it's hard to talk about this game as a Florida State fan without bringing up the drops. Way too many drops from the receivers. Jordan Travis's stat line was 15 for 29 for 175 yards and two touchdowns. But of those 29 passes, probably six or seven of those were drops. So you really want to see the receivers step up going into Boston College and beyond. Um, Dre Benson had a great game, but he didn't have that like takeover game that I'm hoping that he'll have next week. Um, you'd love to see all the plays from Toafili. He's kind
Man.
of feeling like your everything guy. He can
Yep.
catch the ball, he can run the ball. He can make really great cuts. So when all the attention is on Benson, it's really nice to see like Keziah Holmes, Lawrence Toafili, Rodney Hill, C.J. Campbell, all those guys making plays. So you saw a lot of depth out of the running back room to kind of make up for those drops.
Yeah, man, depth, and more depth at the running back spot. I think they really flexed that in this game. Like you said, you finished with 306 yards on the ground, 8 yards per carry. Something that I think I kind of wanted a little bit better was you finished up 4 of 12 on third down. I really think you got to clean that up. If you're playing a team that can really take advantage of our inability to convert on third down, I think that's really going to hurt us. We ended up going for it on fourth down 4 times, 5 times, getting 4 of those. Which I like the fact that Norvell wants to go for it. I think the analytics a lot of times kind of speaks to that being the right call, which I'm okay with. Just against USM, probably shouldn't have to go for it on fourth down 2 times in one drive. I'd really like to see them be able to convert those third downs and continue the drive because, like I said, I think later on in the year you're going to play teams that will punish you for doing that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And you got a lot of help from USM and racking up all those penalties. 13 penalties is like ridiculous. So you had a lot of help from them. Again, you want to see them clean up the drops. And I saw a little too much backyard ball.
Yep, I agree.
Just like you said, I liked the fourth down calls. I liked Mike Novell being aggressive and trying to take them out early, but you don't want to have to go 4 for 5 on fourth downs. And having Travis just kind of run around it, it's nice because we all know how explosive Travis can be off script.
Mhm.
So it's nice for him to be able to do that. But again, you don't want to have to go 4 for 5 for fourth downs. Even though we do appreciate the aggressiveness, right?
Totally, yeah. So we talked about the running backs. We talked a little bit about Jordan and the game that he played. Finished up with I think like 195 yards through the air. Not a huge game for him as far as the stats go, but didn't really do anything to really hurt you in this game. Your wideouts just had a lot of drops. So the O line I thought was great. You had two starters that were out. I think a little bit ago we talked about how you kind of flexed your depth at the running back spot, and I think you can say the same thing about the OL. In 2020 or 2021, if you had two starters out, this game is going to be really close. And that kind of shows how far that room has come. But didn't really look like two starters were out, which is great. It's the kind of room that we have right now at the OL spot. But I thought that group really dominated the line of scrimmage from a pass pro point of view. I thought Jordan kind of had all day to do anything that he wanted. But yeah, the OL group I thought had a great game.
Yeah, the offensive line continues to just dominate. I think I've probably been the most impressed with them, because you go into that LSU game as a week one, and they didn't dominate, but I would give them a good letter grade against probably the best defensive line they're going to play all year. So then
Oh
they
yeah.
go into USM, and they got two starters out. So that's a good, just like you said, that's a good test for their depth. So super impressed with this offensive line, and I kind of look at them for the next week and beyond to kind of be able to be the most consistent position group on this team. Hopefully, that would be great. Um, but
Yeah, totally. So we went running backs, we went quarterback. We talked a little bit about wideouts and their drops. I thought Keon had a good game. It was nice to see some of the young guys in the wideout room make plays. Darion Williamson looked really good. I thought Deuce Spann continued to show some of the things that he can do as a player. I thought Hakeem Williams looked really good. I actually have a stat here on just him that I found that I think is worth note. Hakeem Williams is second nationally in run blocking amongst wideouts. That's the kind of buy-in you want to see from a young player. Five-star kid, he could be upset that he's not a starter. He can be upset that he hadn't scored yet. He can, there are a lot of things that he could be upset about. But the fact that he's got that sort of a buy-in when he knows the ball is not coming to him, and you can see it on some of the plays, he absolutely trucks the guy that he's trying to block. The play that you should um, go back and watch the Brock Glenn run. Hakeem just trucks the guy that he's trying to block. Really great to see that sort of a buy-in from a player that young. We're going to go ahead and move to the defensive side of the ball. Let's start on the line of scrimmage. I thought those guys looked really, really good. I thought their penetration was good. Didn't really have like a ton of sacks. Didn't really have a ton of stats, but you could feel the starters when they were on the field, and that's what you expect when you play a team like USM.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Southern Miss ended the game with 258 yards total,
Mm-hmm.
154 passing and 104 rushing. They ended with 4.2 yards per play. Um, but it was just, in my opinion, it just looked like domination all night. Line of scrimmage, you got to see a lot of different faces. Just like on offense, you got to see a bunch of different faces on defense. A bunch of different secondary guys running around making plays. So that was really great. Um, but yeah, so 18 first downs, 3 for 13 on third downs. So just a dominant effort. But the 13 penalties, man, that is just ugly. That is so ugly.
Yeah, when you're playing against a team like Florida State, and there's that big of a talent gap, you really can't afford to have 13 penalties for that many yards. Um, yeah, kind of like you said, I think the line of scrimmage was. I thought that the DL group did fine. Didn't have a ton of sacks, but they created a lot of chaos for USM, really making it challenging for them to run their offense and attack Florida State in the way that they wanted to. I thought their quarterback looked okay. I'm excited to kind of see them go through their year. I think they're probably going to be a better team than they looked today. One great stat that I pulled for the defense as well is 72 yards on 8 drives in this game. That is really encouraging from a defensive unit standpoint because, like I said, I don't think that this USM team is really all that bad. I think they're going to be pretty good. They got some SEC transfers, but the defense made them look bad, and that's great. I thought the corners looked fine. Akeem Dent did pull his hammy a little bit. He did not return. We are waiting to hear an update on that, but hopefully he's okay. You don't ever want to see a guy go down. Am kind of excited with the depth that you have at safety as well. Like some of the young guys that we have over there for sure. That unit has the defensive backfield has really impressed me. And man, we have so many young guys that it appears Florida State hit on.
You see that. You see a lot of that in like the amount of snaps that the starters are getting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't exactly remember where I saw the stat line, but I think I read somewhere that Fabian Lovett has only been on the field for 40 snaps all year. You know, because they just keep rotating guys in. They just keep rotating guys in. You know, so it's really great to see all the depth. You know, at just about every position group it seems.
Yeah, man. In a game like this, it's really allowing to Florida State to build the depth that they need to build if they expect to do. Excuse me, if they expect to do some of the things that we think they can do. Go ahead and move on to our week 2 recap. The 2 games that we have picked that we're going to go through is Texas and Bama. Man, really exciting. And the Miami Texas A&M game. We'll start with the Bama game. You know, I watched the first half of this game, and I felt that if Texas could continue to push the ball down the field, that they had a really good chance. Quinn Ewers finished the game with 349 yards. That's kind of the rarity when you're playing a Bama team. Typically, they can lock down quarterbacks, but Ewers just kind of did whatever he wanted to do. It looked like Texas really knew how to attack Bama.
Yeah, I feel like 'cause I watched this entire game. You know, living in Austin, it was pretty crazy, and it just looked like Texas wanted it more. They were playing harder. They were more physical, and you couple a very inspired Longhorn team with the the situation in Bama at quarterback where Milroe just didn't look very comfortable. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, for
he would
sure.
try he would try to run it, and when he tried to run it, the receivers couldn't get open, and so he would just kind of it was kind of like backyard ball. He would kind of go to one corner to the other corner. You know, he just
Hmm.
never really got comfortable, and I felt like as the game was going on, Texas was beating off of that. But I forget his name, but that shorter receiver on Texas Longhorns, he is a freak of nature, man. That dude is really good.
Worthy? Is that him?
Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked
Xavier
great.
Worthy. Yeah, he is a total baller, and
Yeah.
it's really great to see a Quinn Ewers that is like really focused. You know, the
Healthy.
guy's dropped a lot of the weight, cut his hair, like he looks really focused, and that plays really well into what this Texas Longhorn team can be. You know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You touched on Bama's quarterback. You know, while I watched this game, it didn't really look like Milroe could push the ball down the field. You know, I sent a buddy of mine a text who's a big Longhorn fan, and he agreed. It didn't appear that he could consistently push the ball down the field, and based on what we had seen in the first half, we knew what Ewers was just going to keep on doing. He had that ball that was the sky ball. It looked like a punt. It was just an incredible throw. And I'm not sure that Bama could have consistently done the same thing with the quarterback that they had. Kid's really talented with his legs, can make a lot of freaky runs at the quarterback spot, but can he push the ball down the field? He had a really costly pick that I think played a lot into Bama losing the game. UT gets the job done in this one, 34-24. Crazy game. Bama was ranked number 3. Texas was ranked 11. Really exciting game. Excited for that team. It would be really strange to end up playing UT in a playoff game at the end of the year, but you never really know. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next game. That's going to be Texas A&M and Miami. Um, coming from two Florida State games or fans, I think that there's a lot of good Miami had here. TVD really looked like 2021. Tyler Van Dyke, which is great for Miami. That's kind of been what they've been trying to get the last year or so. They've tried to unlock that player. That year he was one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, and it appears that Miami has figured out a way to get him back to playing that way.
Yeah, I think this game was really interesting for me because it kind of not only was it going to tell you a lot about both teams, but it was going to kind of tell Florida State a little bit about what the back half of their schedule could possibly look like if Miami continues to,
Mm-hmm.
play well and starts to rack up the wins. It would be really cool if if that turned into like a top 15 matchup. If Miami can kind of hit their stride and we can continue to do what we think we can do. But really shocking, honestly. When you're an A&M fan, you see all these 5-star recruits in their recruiting classes year after year that are usually really good, and so to not see the development would be definitely concerning for me. Um,
It's the Jimbo
with
effect.
those leaders. Right, yeah, exactly. Like it could be the locker room. It could be that there's no good leaders in there, and that's why they're not developing. So if I'm a Texas A&M fan, this game particularly was concerning because I pinned this game as a TAMU win,
Mm-hmm.
and Miami looked like the better team from the start to the end of the game.
Yeah, Miami's defensive line looked really good. They looked strong. Leonard Taylor looked like a good player. He's really their bell cow on the defensive interior. Their ends looked good. They've got some really young guys that it appears that they hit on. So these are things that Florida State are there. These are things that Florida State is going to have to manage going forward. Um,
It's nice to see TVD play so well. I'm just gonna say that,
yeah, I
because
mean,
I knew he's got what it takes. Like he's the guy. He's the guy. He can do it.
I like Tyler Van Dyke. I think that he is probably the best quarterback that they've had from a pure talent standpoint. Really, probably since Brad Kaya, who I really thought was going to end up being a good pro. But
Haven't heard that name
yeah,
in a while.
yeah. But kudos to Miami. They ended up getting the win. Um, Cristobal really needs these sorts of wins really to launch Miami's recruiting into where he wants. They haven't had a great year so far as the recruiting goes, and a big win like this can certainly do that. From an A&M side, I thought Connor Wagman looked. I thought he looked pretty good. I think he needs a little bit of support. Ended up throwing the ball, I think, 51 times, which is nuts, but. Um, he looked good. He's got a good arm. He's got pretty good legs. I think he could do well for them, but um, just needs just needs a few more things really to break their way in a game like this. Kind of surprised Miami ended up scoring 48, but when TVD goes 21 of 30 for 374 and 5 scores, that's just kind of how it goes. I figured TAMU's DBs would be a little bit better than that based on how they've recruited, but I don't follow
Right.
TAMU. So, um, but yeah, do you have any closing thoughts on the Texas A&M Miami game?
Not really. Just kind of surprised that TAMU looked so rough. I figured that they would have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that this kind of sets things up well for Florida State, to be honest with you, because since Clemson has kind of not fallen off, but just not played to where we thought they would, you're not going to get that top 10, top 15 game in Death Valley that would really kind of help Florida State. I think LSU will help Florida State because I think that they're going to end up being a pretty good team. So, I mean, I would love for there to be a top 15 game in Doak when Miami comes to town. So yeah, this has been our Florida State USM review, as well as a little bit of Week 2 recap. We appreciate you checking out our video. Y'all have a great night, and go Noles.